Relationships are actually everything that we need in this life. And it's like in life, we relate to humans, in life, we relate to elementals, to all other beings, to our pets. So today, Andrew and I will talk about relationships. And for those of you who don't know us, I am Sandra. I'm the founder of the Freedom Tribe. I'm a transformational breathwork facilitator. Amongst other things, I work with plants, and I'm here with Andrew, who is a relational psychotherapist and a breathworker as well. So, hi, Andrew.
Hi, Sandra, and it's just amazing to be with you today.
Yeah,
Not just talking.
yeah, we are talking about relationships and how important our relationships are in our lives. And not only the relationship that we have outside of us, but first and foremost of all, the relationship that we form over the arc of our lifetimes, and especially this lifetime, to ourselves. And how important it is to reclaim those parts that were disassembled, that we lost on the way. And sometimes we feel that we can't be ourselves because something is missing from our life. Something is missing, something we have lost on our way. So, for me personally, if I may go a little bit into my own story, I have had many, many losses in my life. I lost so many humans and I lost many of my pets. And there was a lot of grief that was unexpressed over the time of my life. And at a certain point, I lost my dog, Yuma, and I went into such a confused um, state of being that I couldn't function anymore in daily life. And I needed a lot of time actually to figure out what's happening with me. And I figured out that I lost many parts of my life. I lost many humans, but I lost a part of me on the way because I didn't grieve. I didn't allow myself. I didn't have the backup. I didn't have the possibility to have someone to hold me in that grief as well, which is really important. So for me, the the relationship that I formed with my breath was actually the turning point of going into these parts of myself that I lost, but also reconnecting to these people and these humans that I lost, to reconnect to my dog that I lost, and to allow myself to be held in my grief about these losses. And that became over the past years my path to hold others in their emotions around their relationships. Because, as I said in the beginning, everything in this life is about relationships, not only to humans, but to plants, to animals, to the water, to the fire, to the universe, to the whole universe, because we are a part of it. And I would love to invite you, Andrew, my beautiful friend now, if you want to expand a little bit on your work, what you are doing, and how you see and feel relationships in your life.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandra. And thank you for your share about your own history. Um, yeah, very beautiful to hear. Um, so I'm going to talk a bit about my training as a relational psychotherapist. Um, so yeah, just echoing what you said, at the heart of the way that I was trained is the relationship. And that means the relationship not just with ourselves, but with another person. So when I form a relationship with a client, that is the central focus of the work that I do. You know, what's happening between us. Because so often people come to not just psychotherapy, but they come to do breath work with the Freedom Tribe, for instance, because they haven't had great relationships in the past. You know, they've had difficult relationships, particularly growing up, maybe with caregivers or siblings, school teachers. Um, and so the focus is very much about often about what we didn't have when we were growing up. And maybe as adults as well, we've had difficult relationships. We could have been in toxic romantic relationships. I know I have been in that. I know you've been in those relationships as well, which have been very challenging, but also for me personally, have taught me a lot about parts of myself. You already alluded to this, that we've lost along the way. So I guess a question I want to ask is why do this work? Okay, and for me, the answer to that is so we can expand, so we can be everything we can be, and perhaps we discover about those parts that are missing through relationship, right? So you touched on grief. Um, so a question I'd ask is what is our relationship with grief? What's my relationship with grief? Is it something that I'm able to move towards and be with and experience and express? Or is it something I want to move away from? And I guess, breath work is a wonderful way of getting in touch with those parts that we've lost and forming a new relationship, something perhaps we pushed away, we can start to move towards and, you know, reclaim. Um, yeah. So that's a few things that I wanted to say, Sandra.
Thank you, Andrew. What came up for me is also reclaiming those parts of us that were lost, that we sometimes don't even know what we have lost. It
Yeah.
only shows up in our day to day lives that we might have lost our house, or we might have lost our partner, or yeah, pets, or situation or something like that. It shows up in our outer lives, and we don't know what actually in our inner life is going on. So there is a part missing to the wholeness that we are. And we dim ourselves down, and we don't really own our power that all of us humans have. And I mean power as this innate life force energy that flows through every cell in our body. And therefore, it's so important for me personally to not only intellectually understand my patterns, my psychological issues, my relational problems. I'm not an easy person to be with. I know that because I'm very multi layered and but to own the dark parts, what we say dark parts, which I don't feel really anymore as really dark parts, they are only parts of us. The grief and the anger and everything that, or even the confusion about life. And it's all actually a path or an adventure into wholeness. And it's for me personally, it's really an adventure because so much shows up in expanded states of awareness or in trance states that I didn't know about myself yet. So it's always a step into something new, which is an adventure. Or if you go, for example, on an expedition to the North Pole, you don't know how it will be. You can prepare, you can have expectations, you can have all your gear together, but then you don't know what shows up on the North Pole for you. And you have to deal with these things. And if we play small in our life and we don't want to look at our dragons, I call them dragons because I have a relationship with dragons, as you know. So when a dragon or when a difficult or uncomfortable situation shows up, oh, okay. Um, and I choose to look away, then this difficult situation gets bigger and
Yeah.
shows up maybe from the outside in another part of my life.
Yeah.
So, what I have learned through many years of deep inner exploration, in communion and relationship with breath, with plants, and with other humans, and my pets, my dogs, animals, animal spirits. I love to work with animal spirits, with the energy and with the frequency of animals, is that I'm curious about also the uncomfortableness that shows up,
Mm.
because that is what opens portals, portals in our heart, that we can receive a situation with the appropriate uh, safety boundaries in a safe environment, where we can face these dragons, move through them, and reclaim these parts, even if they hurt. If we step away from the hurt, we can't reclaim them. This is
Yeah.
what I learned.
Yeah. And I can, if I may, I just want to expand on a couple of things that you said, Sandra, because I think it was Carl Jung that said, what we resist persists and becomes bigger, right? So if we're not able to form a relationship where we move towards something that's difficult, our shadow, if you like, it actually gets bigger and it expresses itself in our being in different ways, like illness or, difficult relationships, which we already touched on. It comes out anyway, because these parts of us want, they don't want to stay hidden away. They want to, there's a movement in the universe towards healing, towards wholeness that wants to happen anyway. So if we don't, form a loving relationship with these parts of ourselves, that they express themselves anyway in perhaps more challenging, difficult ways.
Yeah.
Um, and another thing that you touched on was the idea of a door opening. And I think the way I look at the medicines that we work with, the breath, for instance, and these plant medicines that we work with, that they're a way of opening that door and allowing us to step forward through that door and form that relationship with these parts of ourselves in a safe way. And I think part of the way that we do that, and we talked about this before this conversation, is we form very deep relationships with everyone that we work with to create that safety, to allow people to feel grounded, to be able to feel safe enough, secure enough to face what needs to be faced, and then people can expand and become everything that they are.
Mm.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. You know what I feel that is really special about our work, how we work together, is this heart to heart connection that we have as a team,
Yeah, I
but
was
we
thinking of that. Yeah.
uh, but also that we form with our participants, because it's easy to, well, it's not easy, but we are not used to open up so much in our Western culture, with all that we are, and express everything that we are without feeling shame or guilt, without being ashamed or feeling guilty about what we have done in the past or what was done to us. So it's not so easy, actually, to open up about these parts of us. So uh, when we come from heart to heart, because the heart receives everything.
Mm.
The heart, the human heart, is just such an amazing technology. And I mean, not technology in a computer sense, but it's formed not only as a physical being, but it's formed as well as an energetic being, this heart, that can connect and form a deeply compassionate relationship and interconnectedness from being to being, from soul to soul. And we are humans. We all have our challenges. We all have our griefs and shames and guilts. And, we know how it feels like. And if we can softly and step by step form a heart to heart connection to another being, then it's possible to open up without holding back the guilt and the shame, for example, which keeps us small again and doesn't let us step into our power. So I feel that this is one of the most important parts actually that I see personally in our work and in my work that I do with, for example, the Rapé medicine, this beautiful medicine that we all love so much, is that forming a relationship with a medicine, and the medicine can be an outer medicine like a plant or something, that helps us to get into a heart connected and heart open and energetically open space so that we can share with each other. We are allowed, we have the support, we are held um, to be able to open up and to share, or with another human being. And I see that after the pandemic, especially, many of us got used to deal with our challenges and our problems on our own. And
Mm.
I don't exclude myself from that. I felt that for a long time that I have to do, oh my God, I have to do everything on my own. I'm alone. I'm alone on this path, and I need to push through, and with I need to resist, or I need to push through, and this needs so much energy, the pushing or the resisting. It's just so much energy that can be used in a different way, but we can't do everything on our own. I realized that.
Yeah. Yeah, and from my own history, Sandra, that idea of feeling as though I have to do everything on my own, it was much before the pandemic. I was now, as you know, I was an active alcoholic for many years, where I felt the only way that I could survive in this world was to numb everything, through the use of alcohol. And I grew up in an environment where it didn't feel safe to trust, to express myself, to be who I needed to be, um, in my family. And so part of my growth, my expansion, is to allow myself to trust the medicines, other people. Um, so it's all part of this same beautiful circular journey for me. We talk about trust and surrender a lot, don't we, in breath work? It's a mantra for us, but it's so important. And it's not just in the work itself, it's not just in the breathwork journeys, that if we can allow that trust to happen in those journeys, that can flow out into the rest of our lives. I mean, our teacher Glenn talks about breathwork is life, life is breathwork, right? Because if we can start to trust more and more in that environment, we can then start to trust in our daily lives. And
Yeah.
that's just so beautiful.
Yeah. And to trust and surrender doesn't mean that we don't have boundaries. So we also need natural boundaries in our life so that we can be who we really are and others can get to know us who we really are. If we don't have boundaries and we tend to merge with everything and everyone, no one knows exactly who we are. And we need this individuation uh, to show up as a body, as a soul, in a body, through a body, and as a body. We need that because we have to decided to be in a body. So we need to step into our body fully, because this body is sacred. It's not something that we carry around and it's a burden. Actually, if we tap into that and reclaim those parts, the body becomes sacred in a way that feels authentic and truthful and unique to each and every one of us.
I would say that the body's always been sacred. As you know, I'm a practicing Buddhist, and Buddhism teaches that we're all born pure Buddhas, you know, with a pure nature.
Yeah.
And then we have these experiences which kind of block that view of who we are. And we can reclaim that, you know, by reclaiming these parts of ourselves, by moving through those difficult experiences that we've had, we can come back to our true nature,
Yeah.
which is the whole fully expanded human being. We can do that. We can
Yeah.
find that power.
Yeah. And I want to touch a little bit now towards the end on expansion and contraction. Because, in the spiritual communities, it's always talked a lot about expansion and transcending our challenges or our dark parts. And actually, I'm not very a friend of all these expansion transcending movements that are going on because it leads to bypassing. And that for me is like another dissociation, like, for example, as you said, drinking alcohol or having sex, for example, as a dissociative practice and not as a relational, deeply emotionally connected relational practice. Or there are so many other things that we can step out of our pains and our difficulties, actually. But for me, the real spiritual path is about feeling everything.
Mm.
And that is not the easy way to go, but it's worth it. Because through the expansion and contraction again, and then expansion again, it's like the flow and the ebbs of the ocean or the full and the new moon. It's our nature to expand and contract again. And we all we want to go towards expansion and towards transcending all our problems. But we as humans can't bypass the contraction, which is sacred as well. And all of our parts that don't
Yeah,
feel lovable and don't feel acceptable to others.
I think what you're touching on, Sandra, is the temptation to cling on to the comfortable, the good feelings, right? Which is a natural human thing to want to do. But I guess what we're saying is to be everything that we can be, we need to allow ourselves to be uncomfortable as well.
Yeah.
And
And being aware of our
be mindful of that, right?
yeah, and being aware of our pains and where they come from step by step,
Mm.
they don't go away because I just felt before we went on the call, I just felt a lot of grief around my losses, and I could really feel it in my body. And I know this grief will never go fully away, and I don't want it to go away because it's my life. It's part of me, and I love this grief because it feels alive. It's
Yeah.
aliveness in me. I don't push it away anymore. And I needed many years to learn that, and it it becomes a different quality. It's not the despair anymore in the grief or in the loss, or I can stand in my grief and still feel my power
Mm.
and still feel the love and still express the grief. And that is what changed over the last years doing this deep inner work with plants and with psychoactive plants and with breathwork, and with building up authentic relationships and with talking my truth. And also implementing, okay, if I talk my truth now, if I'm authentic now, that might be uncomfortable, and there might be the possibility for an uncomfortable situation or conversation as well. And I learned to not bypass that anymore, and
Yeah,
that changed a lot in my life.
yeah. If I may share before we finish this conversation, I have a similar relationship with my anger. So I've got one of my patterns is I've been very much a people pleaser who I've been scared of conflict, of upsetting anyone, and, and not having very strong boundaries. So, so for me, through breath work particularly, um, I've really allowed myself to really experience my own anger and my own rage, actually, which has totally transformed my relation, and it's really allowed me to have boundaries and, to say this is what I need and this is what I don't need, which has given me so much more freedom in the way I operate in the world, and it's just been very beautiful. So I think these medicines can really allow us to change our relationships with difficult parts of ourselves, and yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned the freedom because through reclaiming our parts and becoming whole, we become more free. And that's what we are all striving for, right?
That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, to strive for more freedom as an expression, as a human being, as a soul in a human body, fully embodied. That's what this life is about, right?
That's what it's about. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. So this is the work that we do also in our retreats. And our next retreat will be in the end of November, so November 30th to December 4th in Portugal. And we give the opportunity to a small group of humans, so actually maximum 12 people, to come. And the applications are open. We still have a few spots open to come and to experience this heart open connection and to step into a rite of passage to change this belief that we can't be held or we can't be loved in all our parts.
Mm,
So
yeah.
thank you, Andrew, for being
Oh, no, thank you so
here
much.
with all
I'm
of
very
us.
excited by, yeah, I'm really looking forward to, I'm really excited for anyone who chooses to join us as well.
Yeah.
Right.
It will be a wonderful journey together. Very
Yeah,
intense, very deep, and beautiful journey.
very deep journey, um, very safely held, very beautiful environment to be working in.
Oh my God, this the retreat center is so beautiful. I can't wait to be there.
Yeah,
So beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, again for being here. And thank you, everyone who listened until the end. And we will be here very soon for the next heartfelt musing.
thank you for listening.
Bye, everyone.